بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا وقدوتنا محمد عليه أفضل الصلاة وأزكى التسليم. اللهم علمنا بما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما يا رب العالمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday evening beginning classical Arabic. Let's get right to it. Let's Okay, let's just roll with it then. Okay, everybody see this? There was something unfamiliar popping up on my screen when it comes to share screen. Okay, so we're seeing the Arabic text. It wasn't giving me an option to share the PDF like normal. It was giving me whiteboard and share screen. So just wanted to make sure that it's going through. Okay, so we're in lesson 13. And we had mentioned how lesson 13 is going to do a couple new exciting things. Whereas before, the new fun thing we were learning about was the feminine gender and how the feminine gender was manifested in asma, in nouns, with usually the ta marbuta. And we were mentioning how the feminine was manifested in verbs with ta maftuha, ذهبت, فعلت, جلست, etc., etc. Now, whereas previously lesson 12 was focusing all of our attention on gender, which for someone who only speaks English is new, other languages not so much. Lesson 13 is now focusing in on plural, or what we say in grammar as number, right? And we talked about the main types of plural. We developed kind of like a mental map or a chart. We had singular. I should just save time and do. We had singular. We had dual in Arabic, which we said we're going to put off to the side. We're not going to touch it for quite a while. And then we had plural. Now, with plural, there were different types of plural. If I may just do a line here. The two broad categories of plural were sound plurals and broken plurals. Okay? So we have sound plurals and we have broken plurals. And we said that sound plurals were plurals that were ascribed to people, human beings, and the occupations that they exclusively occupy. What did we mean exactly by sound? We meant that the stem of the word was not going to be broken up, right? So if we had, for example, we had Muslim was our example in the singular, then the sound plural is, depending on the gender, is either going to be Muslimun or Muslimat. Okay, we said that the sound plural is further divided into sound masculine and sound feminine forms, right? The sound masculine form is adding, let's just put the adding, plus un, Muslimun, Mu'minun, Qanitun, etc., etc. Whereas the sound feminine form was simply adding at, Muslimat, Mu'minat, etc. Why it was called sound was because this original root word, or we can say stem word more precisely, was Still in its form. It was not altered whatsoever. Not in terms of letters and not in terms of harakat, right? So this is still dhamma. This is still sukun. This is still kasra, etc., etc. Whereas when we got to broken plurals, we took our example of kitab, kitabun, a book. The plural of non-human things, objects, or things that aren't exclusively human, and that was, we found very quickly that's a general rule with lots of exceptions, is broken in the sense that it's going to mash up that original word. Kutub, kutubun. All sorts of things are different here. Some letters are deleted, right? We have the alif exists no more. Some vowels are changed. We had a ki, now we have a ku, right? We had a ta, now we have a tu, etc., etc., etc. So this is all with nouns. Okay, when it comes to nouns, we have sound nouns and sound plurals, and we have broken plurals. From the sound plurals, we have masculine and feminine forms. Okay. The second important thing that we learned is that when it comes to verbs, we learned an additional form of conjugation. We learned dhahabu. So if we return to our pattern, which is fa'ala, that's our form 1 pattern. Fa'ala. It means he did. Okay, using our hand signals. If we want to say, still in form 1, they did, it's going to be fa'alu. We're pronouncing the waw. We are not pronouncing the alif. And if you see there's a big oval there in your copies of the Quran, which tell you not to pronounce it. Fa'alu. So now I said that we're going to learn conjugation with hand signals. Okay, we're going to point to the side when we're talking the third person. Third person meaning you're talking about someone who's not there. That covers he, she, it, them, or they, I should say. We're going to point directly in front of us when we're talking second person. That means you singular, you plural. And we're going to point back at us when we're talking first person, which means either I or we. So what we've learned now, at least in masculine forms, again, we're going to put feminine forms aside for a second. Dhahaba, dhahabu. Singular, plural. Dhahaba, dhahabu. Fa'ala, fa'alu. And you can take any verb in form 1 and you can do that. Mashallah. Just to remind people, this is Wednesday night, and Wednesday night's class is the Arabic class. 1 second. Give me everyone pause for a second. Sorry, 1 second for your patience. Okay. So here we go. Fa'ala, fa'alu. Jalasa, jalasu. He sat, they sat. Okay. Anything else we can think about? Kataba, katabu. He wrote, they wrote. Any 3-letter form 1 verb that you've learned or heard about, we can apply these patterns, and this is the conjugation patterns. Okay? That goes with everything. Fa'ala, fa'alu, kataba, katabu, qara'a, qara'u, and anything else. Okay, so these are the two main ideas that we're learning this particular class: plural nouns, plural verbs, and we're going to stick just to masculine third person, or third person past, I should say, just to keep things simple. All right, moving on from here. We had reached tamarin, exercises. How will, oh, here we go. I'm going to give you a little bit of morphology. Hal, okay? The three-letter root is actually ha, waw, lam. In form 1, it manifests as hal. In form 2, it reverts back to the waw, and we'll explain that later. Hawala, right? Form 2, remember, is double middled letter. Jallasa, fa'ala, kattaba, kassara, hawala. And the command from form 2 is hawil. Okay, on the wazn, or on the pattern, fa'il. Now, why does this have a kasra? Because it has to break up the two letters with sukun next to each other. So, حول المبتدأ في كل من الجمل الآتية إلى جمع. What they're saying is transform or change the mubtada, the subject, in the following sentences to plural. What's our example? We have هذا طالب. Look at that. We're right back to where we started. هذا طالب. Nice and easy. Becomes, we need to change the demonstrative pronoun. هؤلاء, which we learned means these. طلاب, the plural. Okay, and they're going to spot you because remember we talked about how broken plurals are hard to sort out. Right here on the left column in parentheses, they're going to spot you all your broken plurals. So we're still spoon feeding, and that's just fine. Let's go. Number 1, our list of participants. We have Sister Sahab. Read the example and then do the transformation.
Okay. هذا تاجر. هؤلاء تجار.
Very good. Excellent. I don't need to write it. It'd be a little redundant. هؤلاء تجار. So now you know that the broken plural of tajirun is tujarun. Very good. Number 2, Sister Musarrat.
هذا حاج. هؤلاء حجاج.
Very good. So we have hajjun, which means a pilgrim, someone who's engaging in hajj. Stay tuned for this week's khutbah, is going to be all about hajj. And the plural, pilgrims, hujjajun. Hujjajun. Very good. And we're changing the demonstrative pronoun from this to these. Hada to haula'i. Very good. Number 3, someone from the Sheikh family.
هذا رجل. هؤلاء رجال. No.
Excellent. Rijalun, yeah. No shadda, no doubled middle letter. It seems to be tujarun, right? Was doubled the middle letter. Rijalun with no doubled middle letter. Good. Number 4, Dr. Zia.
هذا كبير. هؤلاء كبار.
Excellent. Very good. You hear this all the time. Kibar al-ulama, right? The major scholars. So kibar is the broken plural of kabir. Keep that in mind. File that away because kabir is a very, very useful adjective, right? We talk with adjectives all the time. Huwa kabir. And then if you're going to describe a group of people, you're going to need to use its corresponding plural adjective. Haula'i kibar. They are big or great. can also mean great. Number 5, we've reached brother Muhammad Mu'tasim.
هذا صغير هؤلاء صغار.
Fantastic. Check this out. Notice that there is the same pattern here between kibar, sigar, kabir, صغير. Okay? Keep that in mind. That is a pattern. Fa'il. And I promised you that I was going to review my morphology notes and give you some of the patterns from singular to plural, and I completely forgot, so forgive me, but I will. I'll get around to it. Fa'il to fi'al is one of the patterns of the broken plural. Often, if not always, if you have a noun in its singular form on this pattern, fa'il, it will go to fi'al in its broken plural. Good. Number 6, we're down to the Sayyid family.
هذا كثير هؤلاء كثار.
Oh, look at that. I didn't even notice that the next 2 examples completely fit the pattern we just discussed. Excellent. So again, qasir, meaning short. Qisar, if we're going to say with complete literal translation, shorts, right? There's a joke, like your shorts are too shorts, right? It's a joke because it plays off of the fact that in Arabic, we pluralize adjectives when the noun that they describe are plural, but in English we don't. So we say your shorts, which is a plural noun, are too short. We don't pluralize the adjective. But in a literal Arabic translation, we would say your shorts are too shorts. Good. Brother Tamim. Or did we hit Dr. Muhsin?
No.
Oh, sorry. Dr. Muhsin, number 7.
هذا طويل هؤلاء طوال.
Very good. Is it طوال or طوال? With tafkhim or tarqib?
طوال.
That's right. I'm also your tajweed teacher. I'm not going to let you go. Right?
Good. Yes,
So
good.
it is طوال, with tarqiq, طوال, and not طوال, which is very common. If you hear Arabic speakers pronounce the Quran, they will often give it tafkhim, and it doesn't have tafkhim. Excellent. Next up, we have Brother Tamim, number 8.
هذا ولد هؤلاء أولاد.
Fantastic. Very good. Also brings back to memory the point that haula is mabni, right? It's fixed. It's not going to change form, which is why what reminded me was the second time he said it, he pronounced the last haraka, haula'i. It's always going to be haula'i, never haula'u or haula'a. Always haula'i, awladun. So awlad is the plural of walad, sons or children. It can also be children. Next up, Sister Khawla, can we have you do number 9?
Yes, sure. Number 9 هذا ابن هؤلاء أبناء.
Fantastic. And I'm going to just nitpick you here by saying that this hamzatul wasl must be elided. It must be skipped over. So hadabnun, the fatha in hada has to connect to the ba with the sukun, unless we're stopping here. Hada ibnun, because this is the rules of hamzatul wasl, is that we pronounce hamzatul wasl if it's at ibtida al-kalam, the beginning of speech, and we erase it or we skip over it if it's in the middle. So hada ibnun haula'i abna'un. And check this out. Remember how I pointed out last class that ism, which means name or noun, it is a hamzatul wasl in the singular, but in the plural, it becomes a hamzatul qata'. It becomes a hamza that you must pronounce. Asma'u. Well, look, the same thing happened with this. Ibn, which is specifically son, is hamzatul wasl. So we have to apply the rules of hamzatul wasl to it when reciting or reading. But then in the plural, abna'un, now it's become a hamzatul qata'. which we must always pronounce. That's interesting. I'd never noticed that before this class. Fantastic. Back to the top, number 10. It jumbles the participants, so don't mind me going out of last time's order. Back to the Sheikh family, number 10.
هذا عم هؤلاء أعمام.
Fantastic. Look at that. Ammun, which is a paternal uncle. A'mamun, which is sorry, I just laughed at something funny. So one of the famous things about Medina and the Arabian Peninsula in general is the mistranslation of signs. Okay. So I forget exactly what one of the signs was in Arabic, but it was something like mawqif lil-umum or something like that. It was like general parking. Okay, because this route, right, has many words that split off of it, right? So we have am with doubled meme, which means an uncle, and then we have am, which means general. Okay, and the plural a'mamun, and the plural of this is umum. And then so I remember that there was a sign in Medina in the Haram. It was down at the parking lot that was underneath the Prophet's Masjid, and it said like general parking, and I guess they Google translated it, and what the English read was parking for uncles. So with Arabic, never trust Google Translate. That's the lesson. Good. Dr. Zia, number 11.
شيخ هذا شيخ هؤلاء شيوخ.
Fantastic. Sheikh can mean an older man. It can also mean a scholar. Okay. In Medina, everybody calls everybody Sheikh, right? It's not like some, wow, you can't say that for this person. He hasn't reached that level. Even us, when we went to the Ma'had Ta'lim Lughat Arabiya to teach us Arabic, they used to call us Sheikh, Shuyukh. Everybody is called Sheikh. So it's a term of respect, politeness. It's not, some people make it into a big thing, who is a Sheikh and who's not a Sheikh. Everyone should be respected. Number 12, we're down to Muhammad Mu'tasim.
Correct. Number 12, right?
Yes, correct.
هذا ضيف هؤلاء ضيوف.
Fantastic. Very good. I'm not sure that we've had this word before, but a ضيف is a guest. هل أتاك حديث ضيف إبراهيم المكرمين? Right? A guest. And so ضيوف is guests. I scrolled up after initially scrolling down because I wanted to point out another pattern here. Okay, so we have, if we have this phonetic pattern, fa'lun, and the middle letter is a weak letter, meaning either waw, alif, or ya, I'm pretty sure in the broken plural it's going to go to this form right here. Fu'ul. That is jogging my sarf memory, my morphology brain. And we notice this here, sheikh, okay? The middle letter is ya. It has a sukoon, and it's one of the 3 weak letters. By weak letters, we're going to explain that later. It's very important in morphology, but it's a little bit weird to deal with the weak letters, but we'll get there. So in the plural, it becomes shuyukh, okay? Same thing with ضيف. ضيف, it's on the pattern of fa'lun, and in the middle letter is weak, and so the plural is ضيوف. ضيوف. Just figured I'd point that out for those of you interested in the morphology aspect of things. Okay. Let's go here to number 13. We're back to the Sayyids.
هذا زميل هؤلاء زملاء.
Very good. Yep. So zamil is a colleague or a classmate. Zumala'u. Notice, that this is mamnu' min as-sarf. It's one of those words that does not take tanween, does not accept or manifest tanween. This particular pattern, zumala'u, fu'ala'u. We'll get into a lesson in the future that explains the rules for that. We have this word in the dialogue, and notice that this adds an additional pattern to what we mentioned earlier. We had noticed that there was a pattern between fa'il, like kabir, and fi'al in the plural, broken plural, like kibar or diya, or sigar, qisar. Now we have another pattern attached to the singular fa'il, and that is fu'ala, zamil, zumala, and the next one is going to fit on this pattern too. You notice I'm stressing the patterns because Arabic does often exist on phonetic patterns. So if you can kind of get an ear for it, fu'ala'u, fa'ailu, it's actually going to help. And you'll find that as you progress in your Arabic study, you'll get to a point where you're able to anticipate what the plural form of a word will be, and even if you've never studied it before. Number 14, Dr. Muhsin.
هذا فقير هؤلاء فقراء.
Very good. And I'm gonna, because he encouraged me, I'm going to correct the tajweed again and say, where is your tafkhim for the ra? Fuqara'u.
There is alif there. I thought
It's alif, but it takes the ruling of the ra, right? Fuqara. للفقراء من المهاجرين, was it in Surah Al-Hashr? للفقراء المهاجرين الذين أخرجوا من ديارهم. Yes. So the ra makes it tafkhim, it makes it dark. فقراء. Ask your kids, ra is the hardest letter in tajweed when it comes to issues of tafkhim and tarqiq. So no worries there. We should do a tajweed dawra, like at some point. It's like a intensive on like tajweed in the future, inshallah.
So
but yes.
Just follow-up question on this. So zumala'u, you can
Yeah.
say it because of that, but fuqara.
Lamb. Yes, because of the lamb. Whereas here it's following the ra. So the ruling for lam is it is tarqiq almost always, except for in the name of Allah in certain scenarios. So that's why it's zumala'u, tarqiq, open. But the ruling for ra, if it has a fatha or a dhamma, is that it has tafkhim. It is dark. Fuqara, hujurat. إن الذين يدعونك من وراء الحجرات. Rat. Yep. Good.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Always happy to get sidetracked by tajweed. Faqir, I'm not sure if we had it before. Faqir means poor. Actually comes from faqr. Faqr is your vertebrae, your spinal cord. There's a village outside of Medina called Fiqra, and they call it Fiqra because the mountains, it's really, really, really high up in the mountains, and it looks like a vertebrate, right? It looks like a spinal cord. And they call it faqir because there's some sort of mental imagery of kind of someone with like your back is broken from poverty, right? Like the kind of oppressive nature of it. Hada. What's the next one? Let's see. We're at Brother Tamim again.
هذا غني هؤلاء أغنياء.
Fantastic. Yes. And ghani is rich, aghniya also rich, right? But plural. And notice again, the particular phonetic pattern does not accept tanween. Okay, aghniya'u, even though it's khabar, right? Nakira, it's going to be without a tanween, just one dhamma, because of the phonetic pattern that it's on. Number 16, Sister Khawla.
هذا صديق هؤلاء أصدقاء.
Very good. And now we're noticing a third pattern for fa'il. Fa'il is a phonetic pattern in the singular. We had fi'al, like kibar and sigar. We had fu'ala, like zumala or fuqara. And now we have af'ila. Yes, astiqa from sadiq. So if I'm going back to the pattern, oopsies. So sometimes we're going to have one phonetic pattern in the singular and it will have multiple phonetic patterns in the broken plural, which is exactly what makes the broken plural very difficult. F, E, I. And actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 letters, mashallah. Number 17, Sister Sahar.
هذا هذا طبيب هؤلاء أطباء.
Very good. Doctors. طبيب أطباء. I can't recall exactly what it is in its original form, but you'll notice that the ba has a shadda. That means it's doubled. Originally, the word was longer. The bas were spaced out, but in order to make it easier to pronounce throughout history, the Arabic language, it became condensed to أطباء, which is a mouthful to say. 18, Sister Musarrat. Very good. هذا فتى, right? A young man. هؤلاء فتية, the plural of fata. We ran into that in the dialogue. Young men. 19, back to the top. Sister Sahar.
هذا أخ هؤلاء إخوة.
Very good. Excellent. إنما المؤمنون إخوة فاصلحوا بين أخويكم. In Surah Al-Hujurat, Allah says that the believers are but brothers. They are only brothers or siblings, brethren. So make peace between them. Good. Number 20, back to Sister Musarrat. Very good. Jadidun, jududun. Okay, so we have another fa'il and another acceptable pattern for fa'il. Or it has fu'ul. Good. Let's scroll down here. Oh, mashallah, it's a nice long list. And now I'm going to draw a big fat line because that was all broken plural. Woo! Made it. And now they take it easy to the last 5. We ride off into the sunset with sound masculine plurals. Allah. Okay. To the Sayyids.
هذا مدرس sorry هؤلاء مدرسون.
Fantastic. Yeah, mudarrisuna. And just a quick recap of our morphology lessons. Form 1 verb is darasa, which means to study. All right. Form 2 verb is we double that middle letter to make it transitive. It means someone who makes someone else study, which is a teacher. Darrasa, yudarrisu. Okay. Now let's say we want to make the person who does that action, the ism fa'il, okay, it is on the wazn of, or on the pattern of mufa'il. So in this case, mudarris. And if we wanted to make the maf'ul, if we wanted to make the thing that received that action in the second form, it would be the exact same thing except with one tiny difference, which is why I'm such a stickler with the pronunciation. Mudarras. Oh, check that out. Mudarris, mudarras. That's the difference between the fa'il and the maf'ul in the second form. So mudarras is like the one who is taught. Mudarris is the teacher. Muallim, muallam. The one who teaches, or literally the one who makes someone else know. Muallam. The one who is made know, is made to know. Right? So check out how these forms, they shift from form to form, verb form to verb form, form 1, form 2, etc., etc. Notice also, okay, I'll make you aware of something that's coming very soon. Okay, words in the sound masculine plural, un, the sign that they are marfu', meaning in the nominative case, that's for mubtada, khabar, ism fa'il, right? Subject, predicate, and the doer of verbs is actually the waw. It's the waw. And in the other cases of grammar, genitive, accusative, majroor, or mansoob, it's going to be ya. Mudarrisin, muslimin. You've heard of this in the Quran or in different dua, right? Now it's all starting to come together. Mu'minun, mu'minin. Like when we say, Allahumma ghfir lil mu'minina wal mu'minat. Oh Allah, forgive the believers, men and women. Mu'minin. Why is it mu'minin and not mu'minun? Because it's in a different case. It would be mu'minun, but then it goes to mu'minin if it is genitive or accusative. If it's in the nominative case, it's mu'minun. So this applies to all sound masculine plurals. Here it's mudarrisun, and if it were the object of a verb, or if it were after a preposition, it would be mudarrisin. I took it from the minal mudarrisin. But the fatha stays the same. That's what I wanted to point out. We're accustomed to looking for the grammar at the very, very end of the word. That's usually true. It's just a little bit different when it comes to the sound masculine plural. Fantastic. Number 22. You all are so polite to indulge me with my tangents. Dr. Mohsen, number 22.
هذا مهندس هؤلاء مهندسون.
Fantastic. Yes. Engineers. 23 down to Brother Tamim.
هذا فلاح هؤلاء فلاحون.
Very good. And the in another grammatical case, it would be muhandisin or fallahin. Very good. Fallah, remember, is a farmer. Fallah. Which I want to look into the etymology of that, because falaha, aflaha is to be happy. So I don't know if they named farmers that because they rejoice at having a good crop. I'm not sure the history of that word. But fallah would be like, it's like sigha mubalagha. Maybe khawla, maybe you know, I'm not sure. But fallah would be sigha mubalagha from falih. And so it accumulated or got that meaning somewhere along the way. And number 25, or no, sorry, 24, Sister Khawla.
هذا مجتهد هذا مجتهد
Very good.
هؤلاء مجتهدون.
Fantastic. MashaAllah. And finally, number 25, bring us home, Muhammad Mu'tasim.
هذا مسلم هؤلاء مسلمون.
Yes, Muslimuna. Notice that the last two examples, notice how subtle the difference is here. Duration matters in Arabic and in many languages. In English, it doesn't matter, right? For example, if we say, it was a long way home, right? It doesn't change the meaning at all from saying it was a long way home, right? We can change the duration and play with it, and it doesn't affect meaning. But in Arabic, we change the duration and it affects meaning, right? If we say hada muslimun, nice and quick, it's obvious that it's a Muslim with a tanween. If we stretch it out, hada muslimun, it's now, oh, did he say muslimun or did he say muslimun? Right? In Arabic, duration matters. Duration actually will change the meaning of words. Here it's very innocuous from single to plural, but in other cases it might not be so innocent. So be on the lookout for that. I'm a stickler with your kids, especially in Quran class, because most of the mistakes that are made in tajweed early on are issues of duration, right? Especially if there's a consonant that has a shadda, but then it only has a short vowel. Very difficult to get the duration of this short vowel correct. Most people want to make it into a long vowel, right? So that's something to pay attention to. Anyway, that takes us to the end of the exercise, and we're pretty much at the end of the class time. Does anyone have any questions about anything before we break? Oh, I just saw Sister Masarat's comment, bait, from when I was giving examples of on the phonetic pattern of sheikh, shuyukh, bait, buyut. Yes, plural of bait. Yes, what was the question? I see Sheikh family. Sheikh family, you have a question?
Yes. So when you're saying Haza Muslimun and then Haulai Muslimuna, so when it's written, it's actually we are saying Muslimuna. It's just while pronouncing is the pronunciation, Muslimun.
I don't quite understand the question. Say that again.
The plural.
Yes.
Why aren't we the whole Muslimuna? How come we're only saying Muslim?
Because we're in Arabic class.
No,
so in Arabic class, we pronounce everything. It's like in Arabic poetry, because I want to make sure that you know that it's Muslimuna and not Muslimunu or Muslimuni or Muslimunun or something crazy like that, right? But in actual spoken Arabic, or even in the Quran, if we were to, for example, stop on this word, Muslimun, we would not pronounce that fatha. Is that the question? Did I understand?
Okay. Yeah, I think so.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. Just like we would say Muslim. If you're speaking to an Arab or an Arabic speaker, you would not say Muslimun. Hada Muslimun, ya waladu. No, you would not say that. You would say Hada Muslim. Right? Ana Muslim. I'm a Muslim. But in Arabic class, I need you to know that this is a tanween here, that this is Dhamma 10. I have to know that you know that. Muslimun. Right? The guy on the street, they don't care if they probably don't even know themselves if it's Muslimun, Muslimen, Muslimin. They're not sure, but that doesn't matter to them. They're a native speaker, right? For you in Arabic class, you have to know that this is Muslimun with two dhammas because it's khabar, and khabar is marfu'. Why is it khabar? Because this is jumla ismiya, right? All those sorts of things that we've been learning this whole time, right? So that's why we say the endings. And when we're in the Quran, if we're not ending here, if we're going to continue on, it's important to know them too. You'll notice that the more that you study Arabic grammar, you'll be able to correct yourself in the Quran. If you forget that this is a dhammatan right here, and you're reading on and on and on and on, if you know the grammar of the sentence, you will be able to correct yourself, because you'll know, oh, it's hada Muslim. That can't be anything but khabar marfu', and it has to have dhammatan. Yes.
Any easy way to deal with these broken plurals? Because they're all over the place.
They are all over the place. I need to hit my morphology notes in my library. That's chaos right now in the office. You guys have seen it. I've got everything stacked everywhere. There's no rhyme or reason to where all the books are. Somewhere in there, I have my notes from morphology class, and I need to go back to them because there is a list I have of common patterns from the singular to the plural. So I'll make that my homework, inshallah ta'ala.
Jazakallah khair.
آمين وإياكم. Anyone else? Any other questions? Yes, we have a famous translator of the Quran today passed away, rahimahullah, Muhammad Muhsin Khan. He has a very famous translation of the Quran. He passed away. He was in his 90s. MashaAllah, tabarakallah, may Allah have mercy on him and accept his deeds and make his grave expansive and filled with light, inshallah. Ameen. Okay, fantastic work, everybody. I will see you next time, inshallah ta'ala. Saturday classes are still same time. Okay, no one get thrown off by the change in time just because we have the kids classes that go until 7, which is why we changed the Wednesday evening and Thursday evening classes. But Saturday's still on at 11, same time, same place, inshallah ta'ala. Afwan. ما شاء الله. نحتاج إليكم إن شاء الله. أنت تدرسين الناس إن شاء الله. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.